I want to start today with a very specific scene. Imagine it. It's the mid-2000s Los Angeles.
Okay.
We're at the valet stand of a very high-end hotel. A car pulls up. The guy behind the wheel is young. He's a tech executive.
Right, the new money era.
Exactly. And we're not talking about someone who just got lucky with some meme stock. This guy is a certified genius. He actually designed a critical component for Wi-Fi routers back in his 20s.
So he understands systems, he understands engineering. Intellectually, he's top tier.
Top tier. And he's been rewarded for it. He's incredibly, incredibly wealthy.
And if it's the mid-2000s tech scene and you have that kind of money, you probably want people to know about it.
Oh, he wanted people to know it. He would walk around with a stack of $100 bills in his pocket, literally inches thick.
No way.
Yeah, he'd show it to people like it was a prop. But here's the moment that really matters. One day, he calls over a colleague of the valet, hands him a huge wad of cash. We're talking thousands of dollars.
Something like that.
Just like that. And he tells him to run to a jewelry store down the street. And his instructions are very specific. Get me a few $1,000 gold coins.
Like he's ordering a coffee or something. That's wild.
Right. So the valet runs, gets the coins, comes back. About an hour later, this tech exec and his buddies, they wander down to a dock overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
They've got these solid gold coins, and they just start skipping them across the water.
You're kidding me.
Like rocks, just cackling, throwing thousands and thousands of dollars into the ocean just to see whose coin could skip the furthest.
That is such a visceral image.
Yeah.
It's kind of disgusting, honestly, but it's powerful.
It is. And spoiler alert, that guy eventually went completely broke. The behavior, it finally caught up with the math.
Of course it did.
But I want you to hold that image, the genius throwing gold into the sea, and contrast it with a completely different man, Ronald Read.
Ah, yes. Ronald Read is the perfect foil to that story.
He really is.
If you saw him on the street, you wouldn't look twice. He was a rural Vermont native. First person in his entire family to graduate high school.
And his career was not exactly glamorous.
Not at all. He spent 25 years fixing cars at a gas station. And then after that, he spent 17 years sweeping floors as a janitor at JCPenney.
A
janitor. Lived in a tiny 2-bedroom house he bought for $12,000. His main hobby, chopping firewood.
I remember reading he wore this old flannel coat that he held together with a safety pin.
Yeah, because the buttons had fallen off. So when he died in 2014 at 92 years old, everyone in his small town just assumed he had nothing.
Right. A life of quiet dignity, but not wealth.
But then the estate settled.
And the number was just staggering.
$8 million.
$6 million.
He left $2 million to his stepkids and another $6 million to his local library and hospital. It made international headlines. People were completely baffled.
And you're looking for the trick, right? The lottery ticket, the secret inheritance.
Exactly. But there wasn't one. There was no secret.
And so how on earth does a janitor accumulate $8 million?
It wasn't magic. It was simpler. He saved what little he could. He bought blue chip stocks, the big stable companies.
Right.
And this is the part everyone glosses over, he just waited.
He didn't wait 5 years.
No, or 10 years. He waited decades. He let the power of compounding run completely uninterrupted from his 30s all the way until his 90s.
And that contrast, that juxtaposition brings us to the core tension of our deep dive today. We're breaking down Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. And the reason we start with the tech genius and the janitor is that this comparison literally cannot happen in any other field.
It really can't. Just think about it for a second. In what other industry can a complete amateur with zero formal training outperform a top-tier, world-class professional?
It doesn't happen in medicine.
Never. You will never, ever hear a story about a janitor who performed a better heart transplant than a Harvard-trained surgeon.
Or a hobbyist who designed a safer skyscraper than a structural engineer with 30 years of experience.
Impossible. In those fields, the hard skills, the technical knowledge, the formulas, they dictate the results. If you know more, you do better. It's a direct correlation.
But in finance, Ronald Read, the janitor, completely smoked the tech executive. And that leads to the core definition Housel puts forward in this research.
Yeah, and it's a big one.
We usually treat finance like it's a hard science, like physics or engineering, full of rules and laws.
But it isn't. It's a soft skill. That's the whole thesis. Financial success is not about what you know. It's almost entirely about how you behave.
So the tech exec knew all the math, but his behavior was just off the rails.
Completely. And Ronald Read knew very little math, but he behaved with incredible patience and discipline. In this game, Housel argues, behavior beats intelligence every single time.
But we don't teach it that way, do we? If you go to business school, or even if you just turn on CNBC, it's all data.
Oh, it's all data. It's interest rates, PE ratios, discounted cash flow models.
We teach it like we're calculating the load-bearing capacity of a bridge.
Which is so dangerous, because a bridge doesn't have emotions. A bridge doesn't wake up in the morning feeling insecure about its neighbor's fancier bridge.
Right, a bridge doesn't panic when a storm hits.
But markets do. People do. Money is driven by dopamine and cortisol and ego and pride and fear. So if you try to navigate the world of money using only a physics textbook, you're going to crash. You have to understand the psychology.
Okay, so if it's a soft skill, why are so many of us so bad at it? Why do incredibly smart people who can run companies or perform surgery, make such catastrophic money mistakes?
It usually comes down to a few very specific, very human behavioral traps. We've gone through the source material and identified 3 big ones. These are the repeated failures that seem to trip people up, regardless of their IQ.
All right, let's get into them. Let's start with the first one. You call it the moving goalpost.
Right. This is the enough problem. And to see this in its most tragic form, we have to look at the story of Rajat Gupta.
This story is just heartbreaking because Gupta was, by every possible standard, a massive success.
An incredible success.
He wasn't born into money. He was an orphan from Kolkata. He works his way up to become the CEO of McKinsey, the absolute pinnacle of the consulting world.
He was a consultant to world leaders. He sat on the boards of some of the biggest companies in the world. By 2008, his net worth was estimated at $100 million.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. $100 million.
Yeah.
If you put that in a conservative bond portfolio that's paying, say, 5%, you are making $5 million a year in passive income.
That's what, $13,000 a day? For doing nothing. You can do anything you want. You're completely free.
But for Rajat Gupta, it wasn't enough.
No. Because he wasn't comparing himself to you or me or the average person. He was in a social sphere with literal billionaires. He's on the board of Goldman Sachs. He sees people with private jets, people with what he called statue money, and he felt poor.
He felt poor with $100 million.
Exactly. The goalpost had moved. So in 2008, right in the thick of the financial crisis, he gets some confidential information. Warren Buffett is about to invest $5 billion into Goldman Sachs.
Which is information that will absolutely send the stocks soaring.
Instantly. And literally 16 seconds after that board call ends, Gupta hangs up, picks up another phone, and calls a hedge fund manager named Rajaratnam.
He tipped him off. It's classic insider trading.
Classic. He tipped him off. Rajaratnam buys the stock, makes a quick $1 million profit, and Gupta eventually goes to prison for it.
He destroyed everything. His reputation, his career, his freedom. And for what? For a little bit more money on top of the $100 million he already had and didn't even need.
Housel has this quote in the book that just hits so hard. He says, "There is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need."
It's the definition of insanity.
But it happens all the time because the goalpost is always moving. It's that concept of the hedonic treadmill. You work so hard to get to a certain level, you finally get there, and you feel good for about 3 minutes.
And then you look around.
And you look around, you see someone who's a level above you, and suddenly your new reality feels normal. The goalpost shifts.
Housel uses this great baseball analogy that I think really makes it click for people.
Oh, that's perfect. Imagine a rookie baseball player, right? He gets called up to the major leagues and he's making the league minimum, which is, let's say, I don't know, $500,000 a year.
Which is life-changing money.
He is ecstatic. He is in the top 1% of earners in the entire world. But he plays on a team with Mike Trout. And Mike Trout makes $36 million a year.
So suddenly, next to Trout, that $500,000 salary feels like nothing. The rookie feels broke.
He feels like an absolute pauper. He's looking at Trout's cars and Trout's houses and his lifestyle. But here's the kicker.
There's always someone else.
Mike Trout is looking at a hedge fund manager who made $300 million that year. And that hedge fund manager is looking at Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos.
It's an infinite ladder. There's no top.
There is no top. So if your goal is just more, you will never, ever win. It's a game designed to make you lose. The only way to win is to step off the ladder entirely. You have to define what enough means for you personally.
Because if you let the market or social media define it, you'll eventually take risks you shouldn't take, just like Rajat Gupta.
Exactly. Which leads us directly into the second big trap, which is very related. It's confusing the idea of being rich with being wealthy.
The visibility trap.
Yeah, and this is a huge distinction. We use these words interchangeably all the time. Oh, he's rich. Oh, she's wealthy. But in this framework, they mean almost opposite things.
Okay, break that down for us.
Rich is your current income. It's what people see. It's the guy driving the Ferrari. It's the Instagram photo from a luxury vacation in Dubai.
It's visible spending.
It's visible spending. You know that person is rich because they are spending a lot of money. But the irony is, when you see a guy driving a $300,000 car, the only data point you know for sure is that he has $300,000 less than he did before he bought it.
Or he has $300,000 more in debt.
Or that, exactly. So we judge financial success by what we can see. But wealth is what you don't see.
The hidden part of the iceberg?
Perfectly put. Wealth is income that is not spent. It's the money sitting quietly in an investment account, compounding. It's the option to buy something later. It's freedom.
This gets to what he calls the man in the car paradox.
Yes. And we've all done this, right? You're walking down the street, you see a sleek Porsche or a Lamborghini drive by. Your internal monologue isn't, wow, the person driving that car must be really cool and interesting.
No, not at all. You think, man, if I had that car, people would think I am so cool.
Exactly. You completely ignore the driver. You use their possession as a prop to fantasize about your own status. But here is the brutal, humbling truth. If you go out and buy that car, no one will care about you either.
They'll just look at your car and fantasize about themselves driving it.
It's a closed loop of admiration for the object, not the person. No one is as impressed with your stuff as you are.
So the trap is, what we really want is to be wealthy. We want freedom, autonomy, control over our time. But to signal that to others, we act rich.
We spend the money. And spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money.
It's a complete paradox.
It's the ultimate paradox.
Yeah.
The only way to actually be wealthy is to not spend the money that you have. It requires a level of restraint and delayed gratification that is really, really hard in a consumer culture that's screaming at you to buy things.
It's like being a bodybuilder but deciding to wear baggy clothes everywhere you go.
That's a great analogy. You do all the hard work, but you resist the urge to show off the result. That takes a specific kind of psychological strength.
I want to challenge this next point a little bit. The third mistake is what the source calls the rationality delusion.
Mm-hmm.
The argument is that trying to be rational with money is actually a problem, but I have to push back on that. Isn't finance just math? Shouldn't we always make the mathematically optimal decision? If the spreadsheet says do X, shouldn't we just do X?
In a sterile lab environment,
Yeah.
Yes. On paper,
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the real world where you're a messy, emotional human being, no.
Okay.
Because you are not a spreadsheet. You're a biological creature full of biases and fears. The source makes this fascinating distinction here. Don't aim to be rational. Aim to be reasonable.
What is the practical difference between those two things?
A rational decision is one that maximizes the numbers on the page. A reasonable decision is one that maximizes your ability to stick with the plan over the long haul. And those are very often two different things.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's look at the famous Yale study on leverage.
Walk us through this.
So researchers at Yale crunched all the numbers and found that mathematically, young investors, people in their 20s, should use 2-to-1 leverage. They should borrow money to buy stocks.
And rationally, that makes a ton of sense. You've got a 40-year time horizon. The market historically goes up over time. If you double your exposure early on, your nest egg at retirement could be, 90% larger. The math is irrefutable.
The math is perfect. But the psychology is a total disaster. Imagine you're 24 years old. You follow the advice. You borrow money to invest. Then the market crashes 50%.
Which happens.
It happens. It happened in 2000. It happened in 2008. It'll happen again. Because you use 2-to-1 leverage, you aren't down 50%. You are down 100%. You're completely wiped out.
You're at zero.
You're at zero. Now, a rational robot would just say, does not compute. My timeline is 40 years. I will reboot and continue. But a human being
is traumatized.
Traumatized. They will look at that catastrophic loss, feel physically ill, and swear off the stock market for the rest of their lives. They will never invest again. So the rational strategy actually leads to the worst possible long-term outcome because it completely ignored the human element.
So a reasonable strategy might look suboptimal on a spreadsheet, but it's more sustainable in reality.
Exactly. Maybe you decide to hold a little too much cash in your emergency fund. Maybe you pay off your 3% mortgage, even though the math says you should invest instead. A spreadsheet would call that inefficient.
Right.
But if holding that extra cash makes you feel safe enough to not panic and sell all your stocks during a crash, then it was actually the most financially valuable thing you could have possibly done.
Right.
The key metric isn't what's my ROI. The metric is what helps me sleep at night so I can stay in the game.
Staying in the game. That
No,
seems to be the recurring theme here.
It is the only theme that actually matters.
Okay, so let's pivot from the problems to the solution. The source lays out a framework we can call the money mindset stack. It's a hierarchy of principles. And the foundation level one is survival.
Just survival. It's the bedrock of everything else. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skills.
How so?
Getting wealthy requires a certain amount of optimism. You have to take risks. You have to be bullish on the future. You have to put capital out there. But staying wealthy requires the opposite. It requires paranoia.
Paranoia. That sounds a bit extreme.
It's a healthy paranoia.
Yeah.
A constant awareness that the world is chaotic and can try to take your wealth back from you at any moment. We all know Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, right? The dynamic duo of compounding.
Of course.
But most people don't know the story of Rick Guerin.
I don't think I do, no.
Rick Guerin was the third member of that group back in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't a duo, it was a trio. Buffett, Munger, and Guerin. All three were brilliant. All three had the exact same investment strategy. But Rick was in a hurry.
The rationality trap again. He wanted to optimize his returns.
In a way, yes. He wanted to get rich faster. So he used a lot of leverage. He borrowed money to amplify his returns.
And that works great in a rising market.
It works great until it doesn't. In the brutal downturn of 1973-74, the market dropped nearly 70%. Now, Buffett and Munger had no debt. They just sat back, watched their portfolio value go down on paper, and waited it out. But Rick,
He had margin loans.
he had margin loans.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who doesn't trade on margin, you have to understand why a margin call is so uniquely destructive.
It's not a suggestion, right?
It's not a polite request. It's a forced liquidation. When you borrow from a broker, your stock is the collateral. If the stock price drops below a certain line, the broker doesn't call and say, hey, can you pay me back when things get better? They say, I am selling your assets right now at these terrible prices to get my cash back.
So you're forced to sell at the absolute bottom of the market, the worst possible moment.
The worst possible moment. You have no choice. Rick Guerin got margin called. He was forced to sell his Berkshire Hathaway shares back to Buffett at bargain basement prices just to survive. He got wiped out of the partnership because he couldn't survive one downturn.
So Buffett's real skill wasn't just picking good stocks. It was structuring his life and his finances so that he could never be forced to sell at the wrong time.
Precisely. If Buffett had been leveraged like that in 1974, you and I would not know his name today. The first and most important rule of compounding is never interrupt it unnecessarily. Level one is just surviving.
Which moves us up the stack to level two. Room for error. This is the buffer.
Yes, this is the pragmatic layer. It's about acknowledging from the very beginning that your spreadsheet is probably wrong.
That's a hard pill for a lot of planners to swallow.
It is. We build these beautiful, intricate financial plans that say, okay, I'll earn 8% a year for 30 years. Inflation will be 2%, and I'll retire with X amount. That is an incredibly fragile plan.
Because it assumes the future will look exactly like the past.
And it never does. What if returns are only 4%? What if inflation spikes to 5%? What if you lose your job for a year? The most important part of any plan is planning on the plan, not going according to plan.
The great investor Benjamin Graham called this the margin of safety.
He did. But people often misunderstand it. They think margin of safety just means being conservative or boring or buying cheap stocks. It's broader than that.
It's a life philosophy.
It's a life philosophy. It means building a system that can tolerate bad luck or your own mistakes. Housel gives a great personal example. When he plans his own family's finances, he assumes his future investment returns will be 1/3 lower than the historical average.
That's a huge haircut to take off the top.
It is. He is intentionally planning for a future that is worse than the past. So if he's right and the market does poorly, his plan still works. He's safe.
And if he's wrong?
If he's wrong and the market does great, well, then he's just pleasantly surprised and has a lot of extra money. He wins either way. But if you plan for perfection, any single slip-up can be fatal.
Okay, so we've got survival and a buffer. Level 3 is where the growth comes in. This is the concept of long tail.
This is the tails you win concept. And this one is really hard for our brains to process because we're taught from a young age that to be a good investor, you have to be right most of the time. You have to pick winners.
Right. If I buy 10 stocks, I want at least 8, 9, maybe 10 winners.
Of course. That's what feels like success. But that's not how the market actually works. The source data on the Russell 3000 index is a massive index of thousands of U.S. companies, is just mind-blowing.
Lay it on me.
Since 1980, roughly 40% of the companies in that index were effectively failures. They lost a significant amount of their value or went to zero.
Wait, say that again. 40%. So if I bought the entire index, nearly half of the companies I own are garbage.
Yes, 40% died or came close to it. But the index as a whole provided massive, life-changing returns over that period. How is that possible?
The winners must have been huge.
They were astronomical. Roughly 7% of the companies in the index performed exceptionally well. They were the long tails, the Googles, the Amazons, the Apples of the world. That tiny 7% generated enough profit to more than offset all the losers and still provide a fortune in returns.
That completely reframes how we should feel about our own losses.
It should. It means you can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. The legendary investor Peter Lynch said, if you're great in this business, you're right 6 times out of 10.
Not 10 out of 10. 6.
6. You don't need to be right every time. You don't even need to be right most of the time. You just need to make sure your winners run long enough to pay for all your losers and then some.
Okay, I want to get really practical now. We've talked about these high-level concepts, but in the heat of the moment, when the market is crashing or your neighbor just bought a new boat, that stress takes over and all the logic goes out the window.
Right. The cortisol floods your brain.
So let's role play a bit. I want to go through some common stressful scenarios, and I want you to give me the internal script. What do I say to myself in that moment?
Love it. Let's do it.
All right, scenario 1. I open my brokerage app. The market is down 20% in a month. Every news headline is talking about a recession. I feel that pit in my stomach, that primal fear telling me I've lost a lot of money and I need to sell now to stop the bleeding. What's the script?
The script you run is, this is a fee, not a fine.
Okay, explain that. What's the difference?
A fine is a punishment for doing something wrong. If you get a speeding ticket, that's a fine. You feel bad, you feel like you made a mistake. But a fee is just the price of admission for something you want.
Like a ticket to Disneyland.
Exactly. You pay $100 to get into Disneyland. You don't get mad at the ticket booth. You don't feel like you're being punished. It's just the cost of getting to go on the rides.
Yeah.
Market volatility, watching your account go down temporarily, is the price of admission for getting long-term growth. If you view it as a fine, you'll think you did something wrong and you'll sell. If you view it as a fee, you just accept it's part of the deal and stick with the ride.
I like that reframe. That's powerful. Okay, scenario 2. I have some extra cash sitting in my bank account. I know I should probably save it, but I don't have a specific goal. I already have a house, I have a car. I start thinking, why am I saving if I don't even know what I'm buying?
The script is, I'm saving for a surprise.
That sounds a little cryptic.
But it's profoundly realistic. You cannot predict the biggest expenses or opportunities of your life. You didn't predict the pandemic. You won't predict the next sudden layoff or the unexpected medical bill or the once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. You save not for a specific object, but to buy ownership of your future when chaos inevitably hits. You are saving for the unknown unknowns.
Okay, scenario 3. The envy one. My friend, or someone I follow online, just made $50,000 last month trading some meme stock or a new crypto. I'm sitting here with my boring old index funds feeling like a complete idiot.
The script is, I don't know the game they are playing.
This is about defining your own arena and staying in it.
100%. If your friend is a day trader, their time horizon is 10 minutes. Your time horizon is 10 years. If you start mimicking their moves, you are playing football with a baseball bat. You are going to get hurt. You just have to acknowledge that they are playing a different game with different rules and different goals and let them play it. You stick to your game.
Got it. Scenario 4. I made an investment, I did my research, but it's down. I really want to sell it, but my ego is getting in the way. It's telling me if I sell now, I'm admitting I was wrong.
The script there is, I don't need to be right. I just need to survive.
Survival over ego.
Always.
Yeah.
Every time. Being right is for debate club. Making money is about survival. If cutting a loser from your portfolio helps you survive to fight another day and redeploy that capital somewhere better, you do it. Your ego will recover. Your bank account might not.
All right, scenario 5. I have to make a really big life decision. Buy a house, change careers, decide when to retire. The spreadsheet is telling me one thing, but my gut is telling me something else.
The script is a question. Does this help me sleep at night?
The ultimate stress test.
It's the only one that matters. If the so-called optimal decision is going to keep you awake at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling, consumed with anxiety, then it is the wrong decision for you. Period. End of story.
And finally, scenario 6. The flip side of failure. I just made a huge return on something. I feel like a genius, like I've cracked the code. Or the opposite, I just lost a ton of money and I feel like a total failure.
The script is the same for both. It's never as good or as bad as it seems.
Acknowledging the role of luck.
And its sibling, risk. They are two sides of the same coin. If you succeed, you have to acknowledge that luck played a big role that keeps you from getting arrogant and taking stupid risks next time. If you fail, you have to acknowledge that risk is just a real part of the game that keeps you from destroying your confidence and quitting altogether. You have to stay in that humble middle ground.
To bring this all together, I want to look at a specific case study that might surprise people. It's actually Morgan Housel himself. In the book, he has this great chapter called Confessions, where he explains how he manages his own money.
Yeah, this is such a great pivot because Housel is a finance guy. He knows all the math. He knows the optimal strategies, but he freely admits that he does things with his own money that are, on paper, suboptimal.
And the big one he talks about is his mortgage.
Right. Years ago, he paid off his house, wrote a check, and wiped out the mortgage entirely. Now, I want to be crystal clear. If you came to me for financial advice and said, I'm about to pay off my 3% mortgage, my spreadsheet brain would tell you you are making a mathematical error.
And I would probably agree. I'd say, look, I can put that cash in an S&P 500 index fund and earn 8 or 10% over the long run. By paying off that cheap debt, I am literally setting money on fire. That spread between the interest rates is free money. Why would Housel, a finance expert, throw that away?
Because his goal wasn't to maximize ROI. His goal was to maximize independence.
Unpack that distinction. What does that mean in practice?
By removing his single largest monthly fixed cost, his mortgage payment, he dramatically lowered his survival threshold.
His baseline cost of living.
Exactly. If the world falls apart tomorrow, if he loses his job, if the market crashes 50%, it doesn't take much money for his family to live. He owns his house outright. No one can ever take it away from him.
It made him anti-fragile.
Perfectly said. He traded potential maximum returns for guaranteed peace of mind. He bought sleep. And to him, knowing that he owns his time, that he is independent from the banks and the whims of the market, was worth the fee of missing out on some extra stock market gains.
I think that's the ultimate takeaway here, isn't it? We spend so much time and energy trying to be the best investor, the smartest trader, trying to squeeze out that extra 0.5% of return. But the real win is just becoming independent.
That's it. That's the whole game. Wealth isn't really about buying Ferraris or bigger houses. Wealth is the ability to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest dividend that money pays.
So let's wrap this up with our action items. If you've been listening to this and you want to start shifting from that rich mindset to the wealthy mindset, what do you do today? What's the first step?
3 things. First, define enough. Right now, take out a piece of paper and write it down. If you don't define where the goalpost stops, it will keep moving forever until you break. You have to decide what game you are actually playing and what winning looks like for you.
Action item 2.
Save like a pessimist, but invest like an optimist. Build that room for error. Have a cash pile in an emergency fund that seems almost excessive to your rational brain. That cash isn't your spending. It's for buying your sanity when the world gets crazy.
And third,
lengthen your time horizon. Judge your financial success over decades, not days. Stop checking your brokerage app every morning. If you were investing for 20 or 30 years, what happened in the market today is completely irrelevant. It's just noise.
And finally, we have the one metric to rule them all.
Sleep. Forget the ROI for a second. Forget what your friends are doing. Are you sleeping well at night? If the answer is yes, you're probably doing okay. If the answer is no, you need to change your portfolio or your financial plan until you do.
I want to close with a thought from the book that really stuck with me. True success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind.
And remember, no one is crazy. We're all just making decisions based on our own unique, messy, and emotional history with money. So be a little kinder to yourself and be a little kinder to others when you see them making different choices.
That's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.